BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Martin Dowden, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, all the news, views and analysis you need on Tuesday the 9th of September. It wasn't a classic last night, but it's job done against Belarus.
As McGinn sweeps it into the back post, McTominay meets it on the head, and up is there! Scotland have got the opener! Well, that could be huge just before half-time.
Scotland sitting second in the table after a controlled performance in Hungary. The manager happy with where we are, but knows it's only a start.
Yeah, it's a good start. But it's only a start. 4 points will never qualify anybody for anything. So 2 big games next month. We can go home with a smile on our face, but I'm already thinking about next month.
2 massively important home games to come in October. But could we be on our way to North America next year? Shea Adams believes so.
Definitely. We know we're good enough. The other day against Denmark, we were hard to break down and we got the point, and I think that was well deserved. Tonight, we knew we had to dig deep and be patient, and we did that today. And as I said, it's a great camp for everyone.
We have all the reaction you need right here.
The Scottish Football Podcast from BBC Sport Scotland.
Quick hello to our guest today. It's Michael Grant, the Times Scottish football correspondent, live from Hungary. Thank you very much for joining us, Michael. And Rory Loy, the former Rangers, St Mirren, Dundee and Falkirk striker. Good morning, Rory. Let's get started. It wasn't one for the purists last night, but job done. And Rory, I guess that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yes, indeed. I enjoyed the game. I know, speaking to friends, family and other people, they didn't so much, but it's not often Scotland, don't get me wrong, there was a couple of scary moments, especially in the first half. Scotland controlled the game. They moved the ball quickly, they moved the ball well, they beat a stuffy team, 2-0 away from home. Job done, job well done. So well done to Steve Clarke and everybody involved.
Michael, would you share that sentiment? I'm sure we all agree that the result was the main thing and it was very important and well done to get that. Would you have liked to seen a little bit more pizzazz about the performance?
Yeah, I guess so, ideally, but I agree with Rory. I think it was job done. I mean, I think Belarus were always going to be difficult to break down on the back of them getting a hammering from Greece. You know, I mean, they had to respond for their own supporters not in the ground, but obviously the country was watching them. I mean, Belarus are not, they're not an Andorra, they're not a San Marino. They do have some capable players who are, and I thought they by and large defended okay against Scotland. You know, there's quite often you would see Garen Doak would lay it off to somebody around the edge of the box, and they wouldn't get shots away because Belarus were blocking them and getting to them quite quickly, so that they weren't hopeless. But I mean, Scotland dominated the game, controlled the game. Martin, you know Scotland. We don't do pizzazz really, do we? But a really solid result and a really solid double header. And now, listen, enormous amount of work still to do, but it's a really good platform.
Yeah, Rory, 4 points from 2 away games. I think most people would have taken that.
Yeah, absolutely. 4 points is, I think the word that's been bandied around is solid start, something to build on, these types of phrases. But to go away to Denmark, get a 0-0, be strong and resolute at the back, and still look dangerous going forward. The Ryan Christie header at the back post against the Danes, I thought was a huge chance. I think if he tries to just cushion that in the corner rather than trying to lay it back across goal, similar to what Scott McTominay did last night, then that was a huge opportunity. But to come away from Denmark with a 0-0, having played well, defensively sound, I think as well, Martin, see his team selection in Denmark, it raised a few eyebrows. Then last night again, going from 2 strikers to 1 striker, mixing things up. It worked perfectly. It really did. And I think he deserves huge credit for that, because I think there was a lot of doubters out there about both team selections. And, Stevie Clarke was proven right, as he has been more often than not as Scotland manager.
Yeah, I was going to come to that. I mean, Michael, were you impressed that Steve Clarke managed to manipulate the squad in the way he did, not just in terms of the formation, but in bringing, a number of new guys in for the second game as well, and it working?
Yeah, it did work. I mean, he showed a bit of guts with the squad, the team for Denmark, because I don't think it was a team that a lot of supporters liked the look of when they saw it. The Garen Doak not being involved, Gilmore not being involved. I think Clarke, we know by now that he kind of knows his own mind, and he's not He's not a populist manager. He's not always a popular manager either. But because supporters do kind of hold it against him that the Euros, the tournament in Germany was so poor. Having got there, we didn't really show up. We did really well in the last World Cup campaign, and then there was a really flat playoff against Ukraine and we lost. Steve Clarke's actually got a really good record in these World Cup qualifiers now. The last campaign was really strong in the qualifying group, and now we've started really well in this one. I think he has used the squad really well. One of the things that's really interested me in the two games so far, I've got guys like Robertson and McGinn have really stepped up and played well. And just being around the camp, and it's easy to read too much into things, but you do wonder if these guys, and you kind of sense that these guys know that it's probably their last chance to get to a World Cup, and that they're really going to give their all to get there. There's a little core group of about 3-4 guys that are 30, wrong side of 30. So this is probably it for them World Cup wise, and it's an incredible motivation to end this run of 28 years without getting there.
Yeah, I was speaking to Andy Robertson the day before they flew out to Denmark, and that's something he actually brought up and said, look, this could and is likely to be my last shot at getting to a World Cup. And as you say, Michael, there's a number of guys in there with a similar predicament. Rory, do you think that will be driving on a number of this squad to go out there and deliver?
Yeah, I do agree with Michael. I think if you know that this is going to be potentially your last campaign to get to a World Cup, I think there's something quite special about it being in North America as well. Of course, Mexico, Canada, and in America itself. And the likes of Andy Robertson, John McGinn, and a few others might not get the chance to do it again. So, look, without the risk of just repeating what Michael said, I completely wholeheartedly agree with that sentiment.
There you go, agreement, brilliant. Michael, talk about the atmosphere out there. I mean, there weren't many people there. You must have had access to all sorts of pies around about half-time, I would imagine. But was it bizarre? And, did it have some sort of impact on the way Scotland were going about it? Because the word eerie kept coming up and everything I was seeing.
It was strange. Listen, we all remember the COVID times and playing in empty stadiums, but it was a complete throwback to that. As I mentioned before we came on air, this hotel that we're in is really close to the ground. I mean, really close. So you leave within an hour of kickoff and you just stroll up. You would not have known a football match was on if it were not for the floodlights being on. There was a pocket of Scotland supporters that were trying their damnedest, to try their hardest to see if there was a way to get in or to get a glimpse of the action. I think they did watch it up until about half time, and then when the teams changed ends, they realised they wouldn't be able to see Scotland's attack, so they headed off to the pub, But yeah, inside the ground there was a lot of noise in terms of the tannoy system. They were playing AC/DC and all that, and then of course it gets to the national anthems, then it gets to kick-off, and suddenly there's silence apart from the players constantly shouting. And interesting again to hear some of the shouts from the players, but yeah, it was eerie, and it was just one of these games, Martin, where the players had to self-motivate. They had to bring the passion and the intensity and just the realisation that this feels really small, a small ground, empty, but by God, the match itself is really significant, and it could have, long-term significance. So I thought by and large Scotland did perform like they knew that, and they responded to it.
Rory, I don't know if you've ever played in an atmosphere like that when there's hardly anyone there, and if so, is it difficult to get going?
I played in the lower leagues for a couple of years, Martin. So
I was trying to be polite. Come on.
Could tell that. No, listen, I've played obviously in front of in big stadiums in front of a lot of people, and then I've played at the opposite end of the scale where there's not a hell of a lot of people there. Even with the Scotland under-21s, played in Albania, played in Azerbaijan and things like that, and there's not an awful lot of people there, and I think it's at the risk of agreeing with Michael and getting another sarcastic comment, Martin, I would say that I would say that it's the importance of the fixture which you have to keep in mind the whole time. Out in Albania, Azerbaijan, that type of thing, where there wasn't a lot of fans under 21s games. We were looking to qualify, for the Euros. So whilst there might be a pocket of fans there, it's the overriding importance of the outcome that you need to focus on.
Let's look at the defensive record, Michael. I think it's now 3 clean sheets in a row, which is pretty good. I mean, it's the boring side of football in a way, but it's probably one of the most important aspects, isn't it?
Yeah, and when we spoke to Steve Clarke after the match, and obviously we were kind of asking about Gannon Doak's exciting performance again and goals. Shea Adams has got a nice little run of goals going for Scotland. But Steve Clarke brought up the defensive record. I thought 2 different centre-half pairings over the 2 games, but I thought Suter and Hanley were very strong in Denmark, under a lot of pressure, under a bombardment at times. And then last night, Suter and McKenna, very, very composed, didn't have as much to do, but they still had some defending to do. So that was solid. I thought Angus Gunn's been solid enough over these 2 games. We know there's been a kind of debate about the goalkeeping issue and the lack of depth in the goalkeeping issue, but Angus Gunn was okay. As I say, Robertson was good. I thought Hickey in the first game was outstanding, especially given his circumstances. So yeah, really, really solid. And as you say, a clean sheet, 2 clean sheets to start the campaign. It just gives you the platform, doesn't it?
Yeah, you look at also the full-back areas with Andy Robertson there. Hickey, as you mentioned, Michael, there seems to be a bit of depth in those areas, Rory, which is encouraging.
Yeah, I think, listen, if you look at the bench, there's depth all over the pitch. I think if you look at the subs that come on later in the game as well, bringing Gannon Doak off and putting Christie on. Christie's a very experienced player. He plays regularly with Bournemouth. So to bring these types of players off the bench, then you've got Lyndon Dykes coming on for Shea Adams, maybe not the most glamorous player in the world, however, has always done a job for Scotland. So yeah, he has players on the bench that he can use. I have to say, just adding on to the defensive solidity of the back 4, I thought Billy Gilmour was outstanding last night. He also helped on the odd occasion. Now, they did have a bit of success, Belarus, and whilst I agree with most part against Gunn, I think he would have been punished a couple of times last night because he got his distances wrong with regards to balls over the top, and he did risk a couple of times, and I think better players and a better team at international level may have punished that, but generally speaking, he's looked good. His shot stopping and his confidence at crosses has been good. But Gilmour, and the reason I say Gilmour is because people might be listening to this going, well, we had the freedom of the pitch really in the middle of the pitch. Belarus didn't go near him, but that's where speed of pass comes in. That's where we watch these domestic games that Rangers and Celtic involved in. You're playing against 10 men behind the ball. You need to move the ball quickly, and regardless of the fact he had loads of time, he moved it quickly, and there was a couple of times in the first half that was really solid bits of play that came from me through Billy Gilmour, and any potential danger was snuffed out a lot of the time by Billy Gilmour as well. And I thought defensive contribution as well as speed of play, getting the ball up the pitch and making players move, making players pop the ball off first time with his speed of pass into them was outstanding. I thought him and McTominay were the best players on the pitch.
And he almost got a goal as well. I think a keeper saved it off the post. Michael, Ben Gannon Doak, it's going to take me a while to get used to this. Ben Gannon Doak. He just looks so exciting, doesn't he, when he gets the ball? It doesn't always lead to something, but you think something's going to happen when he gets it.
Yeah. Listen, he's very different to anything else that we've got or anything else really that we've had for a long time. He's quick. He's just. I think he's just a guy that his style of play is just something that supporters warm to, isn't it? They like watching him. They want him to be involved. They're willing him on every time he's got the ball. He's always trying to look to do something. Andy Robertson, I think, was saying last night that that behind him, Robertson had to kind of cajole him a few times and maybe just give him some advice, but not as much as he used to have to. Ben Gannon Doak's only 19. And I know it's a cliche, but he is going to get better. He's going to learn the game more. He's going to be sharper and more streetwise in terms of what he does with it. But I think he's already providing so much to the team. And it's quite clear that Clarke is going to be kind of careful about just how he bleeds him in. There would have been a lot of fans, and a lot of us, I guess, would have liked to see him start both games. But Clarke is going to be careful with him. There'll be games where he thinks it won't suit him quite as much. And others where he'll throw him in. I think a lot of what was good last night creatively or attacking wise was coming through Doak.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think with Gannon Doak as well, he attracts players to him, which is quite rare these days in terms of wingers who want to come inside. You can almost, show them inside and pass them on. See with Gannon Doak last night, he attracted not only the fullback, but sometimes one of the sitting midfielders and the winger of Belarus as well. That means that, yes, he might be chopping back to pass it back the way at times because there's 3 men on him, but when you do that, you've got an overload in the middle of the pitch. You can get it out the other side. He's an old-fashioned winger, and as I said, the fact that he attracts so many players to him creates space in other areas, even if he is going back the way, and I thought he had a really strong game as well.
Rory, we mentioned Shea Adams earlier on. He's into double figures for Scotland now. What do you think that will do for his confidence in terms of goal scoring? Because we've all seen the industry and the sacrifice he's probably had to put in there in many of his games, but do you feel now that he's maybe at the start of a bit of a run in terms of goal scoring?
Well, let's hope so. First and foremost, in Denmark, I thought Adams and Dykes were excellent. I did. I know we heard a lot about the defence. Their hold-up play was really good. They took the ball in well. They won fouls. They linked the play. So that side of Shea Adams' games, generally speaking, always been there. That's his strength. Now, the game in Belarus, I've played in games loads of times where you're the stronger team in the match, and you're the lone striker. There's no space. It's very difficult to run behind. It's very difficult to get to the ball to feet. You work side to side, but when that one chance comes along, you need to be there and ready to take it. And he was. And I think that a lot of the nation and the Scotland team breathed a sigh of relief when we took the lead, because we felt it might be a case of getting the first goal. But I think Shea Adams sighed a breath of relief that one chance did come along and he took it. He should have had 2. He should have taken that one in the second half first time. It was a lovely move. McTominay's first touch down the line to Robertson inside the pitch. Shea Adams centre of the goal. He's got to roll that in the corner with the instep. But overall, I think he can be really, really pleased with his contribution, both with his hold-up play and his goal.
The one thing I was looking at throughout the game was the Greece-Denmark result as it was unfolding, and typically going, I mean, from my mind, that was probably the worst possible outcome. Michael.
You ever happy, Martin?
Yeah, I'm quite happy, Rory. It tends to involve not speaking to you, but Michael, Michael, as you were maybe, or I don't know if you were aware of it during the game or not, but we would have preferred something like a draw, I would imagine.
We would have preferred a draw. Yeah, I was following that result from Piraeus as well, Martin. I think that kind of surprised us, didn't it? Because on the evidence of the first round of games, you thought, okay, Greece are going to become the strongest threat to us. Maybe we'll get the better of Denmark over 2 games, but Greece, we saw what happened when they came to Hampden. Certainly here there was quite a lot of surprise about Denmark not just winning there, but winning so emphatically. I mean, I've looked at the stats, looked at a report about it, and it does seem like they were really comprehensive winners, and that Greece really didn't offer very much creatively in that game, or didn't have much threat at all, which is quite surprising. Now, listen, they're the next game up for us at Hampden. We've got a home doubleheader now. It'll be a completely different set of challenges compared to last night in particular. You would hope Hampden will be filled for both games, and really it's got to be 6 points from these 2 games, Martin. We need to capitalise on what we've built. We need to try and get Greece out of the running by beating them here and then. Listen, how many times have we done this? It's if we do this, if we do that. But if we win the 3 home games, get a draw in Athens, I think that's probably enough, isn't it?
I think so, yeah. Win 3 home games and draw. I think we'd be all right. What did you make of that result, Rory? And I suppose it, as Michael touched on, it brings an opportunity to go at Greece and take them out of the equation in a sense.
Yeah, it does. And I was quite taken aback by it, to be honest. Having watched the Greeks against ourselves very recently at home, thought they were very good. And you see that result against Belarus. Don't get me wrong, Belarus weren't pulling up any trees last night, that's for sure. So taking 5 off a team at international level is still impressive. So I don't think it's necessarily. Bear in mind, if we can beat Greece at home, they then play each other again. You'd be looking, it's going to be difficult for Greece to take something off Denmark, so it might not transpire to be too bad in the end, but I think it's a good opportunity, given we playing Greece next, to go, do you know what, let's go and beat Greece at home, and then really you're concentrating on Belarus at home, and then all of a sudden, you're going away with the idea of qualifying. So the stars could align. I've paid for my tickets last night to the Greece game. I'm a little boy, so we're going to go along, and fingers crossed.
I thought you were going to say you'd booked your flights to America there for a second.
That's exactly what I thought as well. I thought, I booked my tickets to fly to Mexico.
Not quite. Bought my tickets was probably a better expression.
Right. As we stand then, do you think, Michael, Scotland qualify?
Listen, I don't know if I can go that far, Martin, but I'm thrilled and really delighted with the start, because I thought we need 4 points here minimum, and we've got them. So ask us again in a month, but on course, I would say.
And you, Rory?
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll qualify. And maybe if we hadn't qualified for the last couple of Euros under Steve Clarke, I might be sitting here with a little bit more trepidation, but solid start. Good signs of similar campaigns for the Euros. I've got every confidence.
Everyone's very happy with Scotland. That's all we've got time for. Many thanks to Michael Grant and Rory Loy. And thank you for listening. Remember, we're here with new episodes of the Scottish Football Podcast bright and early every day. So make sure you don't miss out. Subscribe on BBC Sounds and have push notifications turned on your phone. Thanks very much for listening.
It's petty, it's ill-informed.
Are President Trump's cuts having an adverse effect on research?
It's pandemonium.
What number's that in the periodic table?
PD, number 47. I don't know.
I've done the shooting clays before. The longer you do it, the sorer obviously it gets.
When Craig said there he'd been shooting the clays, I imagined him out a back line. Somebody's washing,
William Shatner, his secretary, contacted me to say, when Bill has a question now and again, can he contact you? And then one time he called me up and he wanted to know, David, what is a photon? I'm thinking, this is incredible. Captain Kirk wants to know what a photon is,
I once met a guy who referred to a globe as a ball map. A ball map.
Look at the ball map.
What we normally do is spin the ball map and we see where we go on holiday.
The Off the Ball podcast, available every Monday on BBC Sounds.